Gandhi's Passion: The Life and Legacy of Mahatma Gandhi by Stanley Wolpert. Gandhi asked the Viceroy to lift the restraining order issued in April that prevented Gandhi from visiting Punjab, and on October 15, 1919, he was permitted to enter that province. The scene that I witnessed on my arrival at Lahore can never be effaced from my memory, Gandhi recalled. The railway station was from end to end one seething mass of humanity. The entire populace had turned out of doors, as if to meet a dear relation after a long separation, and was delirious with joy. Pandits Malavia and Motilal Nehru, as well as Swami Dhand, were waiting to welcome him to Lahore. It was his first close personal contact with Jawaharlal Nehru's father, who presided over the Congress that December in Amritsar and was soon to become one of Gandhi's major supporters, though never a disciple, as Jawaharlal was to be for a decade. The decision was then taken by both Pandits and Swami and the Mahatma to boycott the Hunter Committee. They appointed instead a non official committee of inquiry on behalf of the Congress. Gandhi was to chair the Congress committee, on which Motilal Nehru and C.R. Das, the great lawyer leader of Bengal, and Subhash Chandra Bose's guru, agreed to serve along with several others. Charlie Andrews was also there, his ceaseless work continuing, as Gandhi wrote, unobtrusively. His service is the purest charity given in secret. In mid November, Gandhi and Charlie Andrews went together to Amritsar. The need for and popularity of the independent committee headed by Gandhi was evident. The entire area outside the station was packed with the citizens of Amritsar. Their cheers and shouts almost overwhelmed me. Thousands stood on all sides. It was at this time that Gandhi began his tactical, principled appeal to India's Muslim community. He joined pan Islamic leaders whenever possible, from the Punjab to Delhi, where he spoke to a large audience of Muslims assembled to attend the Khilafat conference to protest the Allied dismemberment of the Ottoman Empire, despite Anglo French promises to the contrary throughout the war. Born of the same mother, belonging to the same soil, Hindus and Muslims must love each other, Gandhi insisted. When it is said that Hindus should join the Muslims in regard to the Khilafat question, some people express surprise. But I say that if Hindus and Muslims are brothers, it is their duty to share one another's sorrow. It was one of Gandhi's most brilliant and controversial strategies, recognizing, as he rightly did, that without Hindu Muslim unity, there could be no independence for India as a whole. But his orthodox Hindu comrades were shocked, even outraged, by his sudden warm embrace of this pan Islamic cause. For Swami Dhanand and millions of his Hindu first followers viewed cow killing Muslims as enemies of their faith, seeking only to reconvert them to Hinduism or forcibly to stop them from slaughtering sacred cows. Gandhi insisted, however, that the best way for India to achieve freedom was for all Hindus and Muslims to unite in serving their motherland. His speech was greeted with loud cheers and long and continued applause. Gandhi's work with the Congress on the Punjab atrocities inquiry and his commitment to the Khilafat cause of the brothers Shaukat and Muhammad Ali and the Muslim masses who followed them won him greater national popularity than was enjoyed by any other nationalist leader. As a Mahatma, moreover, thanks to his dedication to service, his propagation of Swadeshi and the limited though well published success of his Champaran, Ahmedabad and Kheda satyagrahas, Gandhi was uniquely prepared, or so at least it seemed at the end of 1919, to lead India to freedom's promised land of Swaraj. 15,000 Indians attended the National Congress meeting in Amritsar that December. Moderate conservative Motilal Nehru thundered in his presidential address. India has suffered much at the hands of an alien and recreationary bureaucracy. But the Punjab has, in that respect, acquired a most unenviable notoriety. But repression and terrorism have never yet killed the life of a nation. They but increase the disaffection and drive it underground, breaking out occasionally into crimes of violence. And this brings further repression. It is due to the perversity of the executive, which binds itself to the causes of the discontent and, like a mad bull, goes about attacking all who dare to stand up against it. Gandhi found too much bitterness in Motilal's speech, but nevertheless eagerly seconded several of the Congress's resolutions on Swadeshi and Khilafat issue. He also accepted an invitation to serve on a small committee that would entirely rewrite the Congress constitution, aiming to transform that still mostly moderate organization into a mass revolutionary national party, one that would reflect for the most part Mahatma Gandhi's ideas and leadership on the road to Swaraj. The complexity of Gandhi's life requires careful attention to both his public and personal trials. At 50 and on the eve of his greatest nationwide success in 1920, Gandhi experienced an intensely personal passion for a young, golden haired, blue eyed Danish beauty, Esther Fearing. Devout Christian missionary, Esther fell in love with Mahatma Gandhi's spiritual commitment to selfless service and left her Danish mission the day he agreed to permit his dear child to join his Sabarmati ashram. Acutely aware of how jealous Kasturba was of several of his adoring disciples, Gandhi tried at first to disarm his wife of such feelings by asking Esther to help Turba in the kitchen. But he warned his dear child that Kasturba has not an even temper. She is not always sweet, and she can be petty. You will therefore have to summon to your aid all your Christian charity to be able to return largeness against pettiness, to pity the person who slights you. And so, my dear Esther, if you find Mrs. Gandhi trying your nerves, you must avoid the close association I am suggesting to you. It didn't work, of course. Kasturba treated his dear child so harshly in her kitchen that Esther soon broke down. You were with me the whole of yesterday and during the night. I shall pray that you may be healthier in mind, body, and spirit. Bapu wrote to console dear child Esther with deep love. A few days later, Esther wrote to report that it was too difficult to please Kasturba, who would always look upon her as a stranger. Gandhi was glad you have opened out your heart, but his difficult wife was not. He immediately insisted that Esther must have a separate kitchen for herself. My heart is with you in your sorrow. Obsessed with the thoughts of her wherever he was, Gandhi wrote a few days later, "Resist not evil" has a much deeper meaning than appears on the surface. The evil of Kasturba, for instance, must not be resisted. That is, you, or for that matter, I must not fret over it or be impatient and say to ourselves, why will not this woman see the truth or return the love I give her? She can no more go against her nature than a leopard can change his spots. If you or I love, we act according to our nature. If she does not respond, she acts according to hers. He pleaded with her to write to me daily. Shortly thereafter, piqued that Esther had attended a party without requesting his permission, he wrote her another love letter, as he called his daily missives. You have been a bad child to keep me without a line for so many days. I do, however, hear about you from others. You are at a marriage party. I have felt a little disturbed. What is it all about? How could you have hard in the midst of strangers? It was wrong. Where did you have to sleep? Suggested your going. It seems all so strange to me. I do not want you to make experiments in the dark. I am filled with anxiety about you. I know it is stupid to be anxious. God is above us all. But give me the privilege of calling you my child. Rock of ages, cleft for me. Let me hide myself in thee with deep love. Never had he written so anxiously to any of his four sons, and of all the biblical sermons he might have chosen to inflict on her at the end of the strangest letter. Whatever made him opt for, cleft for me, let me hide myself in thee. That same night he wrote her, my heart weeps for you. You must not prick yourself in your waywardness. A disciplined conscience is one to obey. It is the voice of God. An undisciplined conscience leads to sin, for the devil speaks through it. I wish I was with you. I shall pray for you and love you all the more for your waywardness. Shortly thereafter, she wrote to inform him of how eager she was to return to her Danish missions convent. I see I have hurt you, he responded at once. Forgive me. I wrote as I did because I love you so. He was working round the clock in Lahore, finishing his committee's long report on the Punjab atrocities of the year before. Throughout this arduous period, he was plagued by possessive fears and anxieties for his dear child, sending her prescriptions for her dysentery, including many hip baths, coyly asking her, are you an unworthy child? Gandhi was completely unconscious of Freud's luminous work, had read no psychoanalytical literature, and would for the rest of his life remain virtually unaware of his own sexual passions towards a number of Western women drawn to him as disciples, and for several Indian women who had lived in his ashrams as well. You have made yourself dearest to me by your wonderful love and conscientiousness. He wrote to reassure Esther. You do not for one moment think that your waywardness can make any alteration in my estimation of your worthiness. If the body is the temple of the holy, it requires the utmost care. With deep love. 2 days later, she resolved to return to Denmark to care for her sick father. To express purest love is like walking on the edge of the sword. Gandhi replied to that unhappy news. We never know when we are not selfish, even when we fancy we all are love. Love and truth are two faces of the same coin, and both most difficult to practice and the only things worth living for. I shall therefore pray that both you and I may realize this to the fullest measure. Gandhi felt more tortured each day as the prospect of losing her became more real to his confused and enraptured mind and heart. You are constantly in my mind. Are you happy and joyful? How are you in body? I would like you to return with love. She had returned to her convent in Madras, trying to cure her ailing body in prayer and trying to decide whether or not to marry Dr. E.K. Memon, who had proposed. Gandhi continued writing to her daily, sending poems by Tennyson, Lowell, and George Herbert, adding his own poetry, ending always with love, or another evening has come to fill me with thoughts of you. Day and night he travelled from Lahore to Bombay to Delhi to Banaras and back to Ahmedabad, yet found no respite, no escape from her or from his own unrequited longing. When Gandhi first learned of her plans to marry Menon, he replied, "Your letter grieves me beyond words, but true joy will come to the godly with love." Falling ill, he retreated from his ashram to the lofty and isolated fortress of the Lion, Singad, high above the sea on the Dakkan plateau of Maharashtra. After a busy fortnight of fasting and prayer in memory of the previous year's turmoil and Punjab tortures, he wrote again, explaining his silence, which does not mean that I have thoughts any less of you. I am quite resigned to your marriage. I will not argue against it. Do exactly as God guides you. Only always be sure it is the voice of God. Before she left India, Esther agreed to come to visit him atop Singad, for he was much too weak now to see her off at Bombay. "I did not at all like to part with you," he confessed after her 2-day visit, "but I know it was good for your health's sake." She left Bombay on the SS Berlin on 20th May 1920. "As for my health, there is nothing in particular except weakness," he wrote his youngest son that same day. "I am so weak that I cannot walk at all. The legs have lost all strength. I cannot understand the cause." But he was soon to recover the strength necessary to lead his first nationwide satyagraha, a movement of mass civil disobedience mighty enough to rock the world's most powerful empire. By the summer of 1920, the Allied powers resolved to dismember the Ottoman Empire in the aftermath of World War I, proved so harsh and humiliating to Turkey as well as Germany and Italy that Gandhi wrote to express his shock and disappointment in his Gujarati newspaper, to say that there is peace where one party forces the other to agree to something against its will, crushes it under its brute strength, is a great offense against God in the form of truth. The 1920 Treaty of the violated all the noble pledges given during the war by British and French governments to the Turkish Empire, namely their promises that not only Mecca and Medina and other holy cities of Islam, but the entire Near Eastern littoral and Arabian Peninsula would remain under the control of the Ottoman Empire's Caliph. Instead, the Caliph was deprived of his pre-war control of those holy places, rousing Muslims of India as well as everywhere else in the Islamic world to righteous indignation and fervent pan-Islamic protests. India's viceroy urged angry Muslims to show restraint and remain peaceful, but Gandhi joined the Khilafat cause, arguing, "If the Muslims sit still, all that they have done during the last 4 years will be proved to have been hollow. If the Muslims have no peace, Hindus can have none. Such is the law of friendship." Nonetheless, he cautioned Muslim comrades against violence, urging them to join his Satyagraha campaign. "The peace terms and your Excellency's defense of them," Gandhi wrote the Viceroy on June 22, 1920, "had given the Mussulmans of India a shock from which it will be difficult for them to recover. In my humble opinion, their cause is just. Muslim soldiers did not fight to inflict punishment on their own Khalifa or to deprive him of his territories. Muslims and Hindus have, as a whole, lost faith in British justice and honor. The report of the majority of the Hunter Committee, Your Excellencies, dispatch thereon, and Mr. Montagu's reply have only aggravated the distrust. It is because I believe in the British Constitution, that I have advised my Mussalman friends to withdraw their support from Your Excellency's government and the Hindus to join them, should the peace terms not be revised in accordance with solemn pledges of ministers and the Muslim sentiment. In July, Gandhi prepared his followers for the advent of Satyagraha planned for August 1st, 1920. He urged lawyers to abandon their practice in all courts and litigants to settle their disputes entirely through arbitration. I have believed for many years that every state tries to perpetuate its power through lawyers. The same was true of schools, all of which were used by the government to distort the minds of children on whom the future of India rests. He called upon all school children to boycott, relying entirely on national education learned either at home or in ashrams, like his own, in which a school continued to function. Congress leader Lala Lajpat Rai had returned to Punjab and already announced his intention to boycott the elections planned to be held under the Montagu-Chelmsford Government of India Act of 1919. Gandhi warmly endorsed Lala Lajpat's boycott. I would not have the best attention of the country frittered away in electioneering, Gandhi wrote. The issue is clear. Both the Khilafat terms and the Punjab affairs show that Indian opinion counts for little in the councils of the empire. It is a humiliating position. We shall make nothing of reforms if we quietly swallow the humiliation. Gandhi returned the medals he had been given for his work in South Africa to the Viceroy on August 1st, 1920. In pursuance of the scheme of non-cooperation inaugurated today in connection with the Khilafat movement, wealthy Bombay Muslim Mia Muhammad Chotani sponsored Khilafat Day meetings throughout Bombay that first week in August, and on every platform, Gandhi appeared with Shaukat and Muhammad Ali as well as other Muslim leaders like Punjab's Dr. Kichlu and the League's Hasrat Mohani. Most of the Congress moderates now urged their followers to ignore Gandhi's call for non-cooperation or else asked him to suspend its implementation under the special session of Congress that was held in Calcutta that September to vote on it. But Gandhi insisted that the still small voice within me suggests otherwise. He argued that it was not possible for him to wait on Congress's vote and decision since I had in my hands a sacred trust. I was advising my Mussalman countrymen and I hold their honor in my hands. I dare not ask them to wait for any verdict but their own conscience. Gandhi now rallied all those who listened and agreed with him to attend the Congress in Calcutta and vote as he would. His major Muslim supporters like Chotani paid the fare for train loads of Muslims to cross the subcontinent from Bombay in order to reach Calcutta in early September, packing the Congress pandal and voting for Gandhi and the Khilafat non-cooperation movement. On September 5th, 1920, he expressed his complete distrust of British bureaucrats to the Subjects Committee of Congress, urging them to support his non-cooperation resolution. British constitutional reforms, he warned, were nothing but a trap, which would leave them at the mercy of unscrupulous men. Then he urged them to boycott elections under the new act. Most of the senior statesmen of Congress, including C.R. Das and Jinnah, now opposed him, warning that his actions would dangerously divide the Congress and the nation. Nevertheless, on September 8th, he moved his resolution on non-cooperation and won despite a large number of the Congress leaders arrayed against him, who considered his movement too revolutionary and bound only to stimulate more violence and decisiveness in the country. He promised them Swaraj in 1 year if they faithfully followed the course he proposed without fear of violence. Is the country ready? He asked. Are the title holders ready to surrender their titles? Are the parents ready to sacrifice literary education of their children for the sake of the country? If you have the same feeling burning in you as in me for the honor of Islam and the Punjab, then you will unreservedly accept my resolution. He promised that if they all worked to implement the program and traveled far and wide, gathering public grievances to bring to the notice of officials, that government's eyes will be opened. His passion, his conviction, and his firm resolve carried the Congress by more than 2-1, thanks in some measure to Pandit Motilal Nehru's support. Father Nehru was swayed to Gandhi's side by his more radical son, Jawaharlal, soon to follow the Mahatma into village India's crowded heat and then, for 9 years, to the cold isolation of British prison cells. Vallabhbhai Patel resigned from the Viceroy's Council the following week and together with Gandhi drafted non-cooperation boycott instructions for the Congress to be circulated to all provincial and local committees. Swadeshi instructions were included, and not only Shire cloth but Japanese and French silks as well as many others were all to be shunned by every patriot. Classes in hand spinning and weaving were begun throughout the land, and ladies of high station, including Lady Tata and Hala Devi Chaudrani, Rabindranath Tagore's grand niece, who travelled with Gandhi and whom he called my spiritual wife, were assiduously spinning. A special Swaraj fund was to be raised as well as a volunteer corps. The physical weakness that had followed Esther's departure had left him and his mind focused on the forthcoming revolutionary December session of Congress to be held in Nagpur. Meanwhile, he embarked on another tour, stirring up hope for freedom. Wherever he went and spoke or simply showed himself, crowds chanted, Mahatma Gandhi ki jai, victory to the Mahatma Gandhi. He soon began to find it impossible to rest, for at every station were noisy crowds, insistent and assertive. In vain did Mrs. Gandhi and others plead with the crowds for self-control and silence. It was a unique demonstration of love run mad. An expectant and believing people, groaning under misery and insult, believe that I have a message of hope for them. As always, Gandhi sounded a cautionary note. There is no deliverance and no hope without sacrifice, discipline, and self-control. But those who could read such prudent stations were hardly the illiterate millions who fought to bow and touch his bare feet or his naked legs, and worshipped this Mahatma as their living God, walking all day and all night just for a glimpse of his bald head. He had wakened the slumbering tiger of India's long neglected, abandoned, ignored millions by daring to jump upon its sleeping form. Now the ride left him reeling, but as yet he could not or dared not get off. Most of the old Congress leaders, however, now distanced themselves from him, as Annie Besant and her friends had done much earlier. Jinnah and M.R. Jayakar of Bombay both resigned from the Home Rule League, which they had led once Gandhi was elected its president, changing its name over their protests to Swaraja Sabha. Mr. Jinnah was not amused at having the Home Rule League's laws and constitution, which he had carefully helped to draft, overruled by this upstart. In his letter of resignation from the Sabha, Jinnah called Gandhi's new constitution unconstitutional and illegal, which echoed Viceroy Chelmsford's reaction to Gandhi's non cooperation, the most foolish of all foolish schemes. But it was only the first blow Mr. Jinnah would have to sustain that fateful year in crossing legal swords with Mahatma Gandhi and his ardent host of youthful supporters, so many of them Muslims, thanks to the Khilafat cause Gandhi embraced and from which Jinnah always remained aloof.